Hi everybody. Today I am going to get a pole on my scoot. This is my scoot and I had some troubles with it this past winter. I actually broke the front of this runner off, and I have some logs here that I'm going to be sawing in the next few weeks to make new runners. But I also broke the steel shoe on this runner, or I thought I broke it. Actually I did break it, but it was actually a reinforcement piece that we had on there, and I was towing it up and down the road and it actually fell off, and I was able to grind it down so it rides smooth. So I can get by with this sled for the summer months just the way it is, I believe. And what I normally do in the summer is I'll put on a floor and I'll use this for a work sled, which works really nice. Quite often, as you can see, I have a short pole on here, and most of the time I would just hitch my cart onto here, but it's kind of a pain to hitch onto the cart because you have to use the tongue and a hitch pin there, but then you also have to have this chain hitched to the cart too, which is what actually pulls the sled, the scoot. And so because of it, I'm going to go back to a long pole. A long pole is what these scoots were generally used with. Actually, if you remember, last fall I think it was, I had put my long pole on here that I had, and it was getting a little old, and Abby was actually helping me, and she was hitching on, and the pole broke right there while she was doing that. So I am going to go cut a new one and we'll get that put on, and then I will go out and show you a few other things I'm doing after we hitch the horses up. The original job we had planned for today was to work in the sawmill. Brenda was going to come help me, and we were going to saw a bunch more of my basswood. We've done quite a lot of the basswood here, but I want to at some point very soon make a video of us sawing a basswood and explain a bunch of the uses I have for this basswood. So that will be in an upcoming video. But anyways, we were going to saw in here today, and I don't know why, but it's not a bad day out there, but for some reason we lost power. We have no power on the farm, and so without lights in here, it's kind of a pain to saw. So we decided we're not going to bother. So let's go. I'll go grab a saw and we'll cut a tree for my pole. So here we are. I drove the truck up to where my bunch of hardhack trees are that I like to get my poles from. This particular one is going to be larger than I would normally use for a pole, but it has to be just about the right size to make it work. And so it would be nice if I could find one with a notch on it for holding my neck yoke, but it's not that big of a deal. If I can't find one where the notch is in the right spot, I can always just drill a hole and put a bolt in it to hold my neck yoke. So come through the woods here, and there is a really nice one right there, and nice and straight, and it's actually too big for the bulk of my poles. This one here is too big too, but just not as straight. And this pole for my scoot, I know it's got to be at least 16 feet long, actually probably even longer than that, because it goes just the way it's set up, it's got to be pretty long. So I think we're going to cut this one right here, and it might be I'm not sure. There's some nice limbs up there farther. It may be big enough for two poles, so we'll just have to cut it down and see what we got when we get it down. Okay, it's a pretty long, nice tree, and I think I'm going to cut it right here. That'll give me a good spot for neck yoke, and then I'm going to cut the rest about in half. Okay, all loaded. As I loaded them up, I realized that this one here, which I was hoping to use, is really going to be too big. But I've got an idea.
Hey everybody. I've been a little bit distracted by the horses out here because right outside our sawmill is the pasture. And the horses were right here. The fence comes right up to the sawmill, and they were all over here. Now they've spread out. But I was just going around saying hi to everybody. Everybody came over to say hello to me. So I thought I would take you out and show you. This is the worst of the worst because it's mud season. And it's all wet and muddy. And the horses have just been enjoying rolling in the mud. So they look at their worst. And right now it is just taking so much time to brush them and stuff. But they can't stay inside all the time. Right, Duke? So he doesn't look as bad as some of them, but he looks pretty bad. Hey, Dookie. This boy just loves the camera so much. And Buck over here just loves the mud. Don't you, Bucky? I do have to be careful out here in the pasture because these guys get to horsing around. But Earl, I noticed how Earl and Buck were hanging out together. Look at the dirt. And then Ken's always off on his own, but he comes over and has to be in charge sometimes, right, Kenny? He's a good boy. So at least they're getting a little exercise. What can you do this time of year? I mean, like I said, they can't be inside all the time. And so we just have to live through it. I guess I better get back to stacking lumber. That's what I'm supposed to be doing, but it is very easy to get distracted. What can I say?
So since my pole is too large for what I need, I am going to have to hew it down a little bit. I prefer a round pole in this situation, but that's just not going to happen. And I need to have approximately 5 inches or less than 5 inches on the big end, and on the small end has to be tapered down so it's like 3 inches at the small end for the neck yoke to fit on. So I'll make it somewhat square at 5 inches, and then I'm using my toe board and lifting the front end up a little bit so that in the process of cutting I end up making the small end even smaller so it gets down to that 3 inches for the neck yoke. So now that I've got it cut around 5 inches square at this end, if you were to take a tape measure and run it diagonal, it's going to be a lot more than 5 inches. So I'm just taking my chainsaw and kind of rounding off all these corners so that I can get it down to under 5 inches on every single side so that it will slip through the hole that it has to go through on the sled. Well, it took a while, but I finally got it to where I want it to be. Okay, keep holding it up. Oops. Hold it. Okay, push more. Hold it. You can set it down. I need to get a block. Get this all dirty, which I already did. Yep, bird. So I gotta hew this down, make it. I gotta keep spinning it to do it. Okay, so that big ring is like 5¼ inches inside diameter, and so I got that hewed down fine for that. And now back here, I need to hew down so that last ring the end goes into, and this is what holds the sled back. So it can't go through the ring; it just comes up tight against that ring with my, as in a cut like this. And what I did with that particular one is I put a bolt through it, but on this one here I don't really need to do that. I just notch it and slide it in there, and that part will be done. And then I will figure out what length I want to make this, and I will drill a hole and put a bolt in it for my neck yoke, and then I will kind of work on these corners a little bit, like right there, so it's rounded. And where the bark is showing, that's all the better because those are already rounded. So let's see what we can do. There, it's a nice fit. I don't want it tight because it's too hard to get back out again, but that is just fine just like that. So my evener will be hitched into this clevis right here, and then, or now, I just have to figure out what length I want this. Oh, bye. 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 Oh. Ah. Bye. Bye. Okay, it just worked out perfect. I got them all hitched up and ready to go. So let's take them for a spin. Cap step. Yeah, right. Oh, I want to show you something here as we're going through this field. Probably a lot of people around the world don't have situations like this, but in the spring of the year, these fields get really, really wet. As you can see, this water's hitting them, and what I do not like to do this because the horse's feet sink in like that and make holes. And quite often this soil is such that it will actually smooth out a lot even before haying season. These ruts will actually smooth a lot out. They'll settle down in. We'll still get some more freezing weather, I'm sure, to help pull that back down together. And I probably shouldn't have even done this, but I wanted to show you something out here at the end of the field where I started another project. Catch that. As you can see, all these little holes are from deer. Careful, guys. Careful. We have a lot of deer that come through here, even this time of year. And you can see and this happens every year, but when I get to haying here, I never notice these holes, so it levels out fairly good. Oh, but what I wanted to show you, I've been having a lot of troubles. This field is a wet field. People don't realize it because it's kind of up on a hill, but it's still pretty wet. And if you remember when I was picking my corn last year, I had some terrible mud. And what happens, I should have this whole field tiled, but that's a tremendous amount of money. I've had some tiling put in, but it hasn't really done a lot of good. So what's happening is up in that corner over there, we're getting a lot of water from the woods coming into the field. So you can see the water coming in from the woods. Years ago, I put a tile here. So there's one tile in that hole, and it goes down through this swale down through here, down to the ditch down there. Well, one of two things happened. For one, there's just so much water in the spring, there's no way one 4-inch tile can even begin to handle that. We might have even ran 2 4-inch tiles, I can't remember now. But anyways, it's still nowhere near enough. But more than likely the tile is plugged. So what I'm going to do, what I'm started to do today, this morning I started this, and I'm taking the trees and pushing them out of the way, tearing them out of the way, and then I'm making a ditch. And I'm going to allow this swale as an open ditch, and it does anyways. It's just enough of a swale, it goes right down through. I may put just a tiny little tire track down through there to keep it directly in a furrow type of thing, or I might even run the plow and put a furrow down through there so that it kind of levels out and I can still drive over it. But as you can see, there's a tremendous amount of water, and this ditch here has always partially filled up. It was dry when I was digging it, but and after I get it done, I will come back and open this up here so the water can come into this spot here and then go down that swale. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm hoping to, by doing this, get the water. I'll go up to the other corner here. I'm putting all the dirt right here, and I'm going to just come out with my spring tooth and level it out nicely, and I can throw a little grass seed on it. And but this is where my fence was too, so I'll have to put the fence back up. I was surprised this morning. It was pretty dry down there digging. It's kind of clay soil, and it was actually hard and dry. Well, let me pull the horses ahead a little more. But you can see I threw the fence posts over there, but they were actually along the edge of the field there where the bucket is, and I'll still have to put them back along the ditch. So I'll take the horses up to the corner. I cuffed up. Oh. I really like my pole. It seems to be working just fine. So anyways, up here, I had took a few of the trees out several years ago. Well, when I first got the excavator actually. But I never made a ditch. But there's a tremendous amount of water that's come into this area. And then it comes down through this swale here. And when it does, it goes right into the cornfield and it kind of spreads out all over the field. There's not a real ditch down through there. So what I'm going to do, instead of using this swale to get rid of this water, my plan is to dig the ditch down through there and turn it and take it all over to that center swale. So all the water from this whole corner of the woods all the way up to where the field turns to the left, I will have a ditch, and hopefully we'll gather all that water up there where that snow is. That's always a very wet spot because there's so much water in the woods that goes into the field. So it won't take too long to do that, but hopefully over the next week or two I'll work on it a little here, a little there, and get that done. And so we can eliminate this water here and get the water over there going down that ditch. So that's what we're working on. And it's kind of a muddy mess, It's kind of a muddy mess most everywhere around here, but it'll dry fast enough and we'll be plowing before we know it. I am going to put a floor on this maybe next week. People think that it's hard to ride on something like this because you're just riding on that I-beam, or quite often it's just a wooden bunk there, but it's really, you have the lines to hold, and it's really not that hard at all to drive horses and just stand on that small I-beam and go along. So we'll continue on. Actually, we'll head home. Catch that. So my plan for this spring is this section here will be my next piece of corn, and the cornfield that you see over there will be plowed up and seeded down to timothy and clover. It's nice this time of year to go out into the fields, look things over, make plans, get ideas as to how you want to go through the summer months. And I do like to keep these horses exercised, but unfortunately right now this is not the way to do it because it's just too wet in the fields. They're doing too much damage. So we'll actually go out on the road and trot them up the road a little bit just to give them a little more exercise for the day and then put them away. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great day.